A busy newsroom here at Sky Sports News. We are back. Welcome along to Transfer Talk. So much to bring you, including a further development on the future of Gareth Bale. Bruno Fernandes says he wants to play in England, but will it be at Manchester United? Don't forget, you can tweet the show at Sky Sports News. Use that hashtag Transfer Talk. Yeah, so we are once again going to start with Gareth Bale. The latest to bring you from Bale's agent is that he said if Bale is to leave Real Madrid this summer, it won't be on loan. Jonathan Barnett has told Sky Sports News that there will be no makeshift deals to get him out of the club. He goes on to say Gareth is one of the best players on the planet. I can guarantee you he will not be going on loan to any club. Gareth is a Real Madrid player, and for now he's staying as a Real Madrid player. If something comes along that suits us, then things could change and he could be gone in a day or a week, or he could still be a Real player in 3 years when his contract ends. It is worth reiterating that Bale did train with his teammates yesterday ahead of the game overnight tonight against Arsenal, and all of this, of course, coming after those strong words between Zidane and Bale's agent. It is quite the saga. Emma, just remind us what Zidane has had to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of back and forth at the moment between the pair, isn't there? This is what Zidane has had to say. He said, the first thing is that I have never disrespected anybody, certainly not any player. I've always said the same. Players are the most important thing here. If there is a player here, I will be with them. Secondly, I said the club were trying to find a way out for Gareth. And thirdly, which is the most important, is that the other day he didn't get changed for the game because he didn't want to. The club are trying to find a way out for him. For now, Gareth is a Real Madrid player. He's going to train normally with us, and we will see what happens on Tuesday. And it is Tuesday, so...
Yeah, and I mean, all of that actually follows some... Zidane had spoken before. Bale's agent then came out, labelled Zidane a disgrace. We spoke to Ramon Calderon yesterday about whether or not this relationship is simply just untenable now moving forward, which he agreed with. In terms of a move, if it happens, though, Anton, who are the interested parties?
Well, look, I think you've got to analyse what Jonathan Barnett has told us today. And basically what he's saying is he doesn't want to go out on loan, which means he's not going to get a cut price. He's not going to take a pay cut to stay in Europe. So what are the options? Well, China is probably the biggest option if he wants either the same or even to earn even more money to be arguably the world's best paid player. We know two clubs are interested. Sky in Italy is telling us those two clubs from China are Beijing Guan and Jiangsu Suning. So if he goes to China, what will he expect? Well, if he goes to Beijing Guan, they're really trying to compete for that title. They haven't won a title for 10 years. But if you actually look at some other things around the club, their average attendance is 40,000. They're playing a much bigger stadium, so again, that could grow. They've already got some established foreign players in Cedric Bakambu, who they spent around £35 million on last season. Jonathan Vieira, who knows La Liga well. Renato Augusto is a Brazilian international as well. So again, he's coming into a squad with a bit of experience. Nico Llanares as well, who's a former Brentford, former Arsenal trainee as well. He's there now with a Chinese passport. So again, it's not as though he comes into a completely foreign changing room as well. And then if he goes to Jiangsu Suning, well, they're slightly different in themselves. Again, a decent, healthy attendance, 31,000. Again, they play in a bigger stadium. You could actually see the club grow, which must be quite exciting. The foreign players, Alex Teixeira, who nearly joined Chelsea a couple of years ago, Eder, who was playing for Italy relatively recently as well, and Gabriel Paletta. Ramirez played for them for 3 seasons as well when he left Chelsea. So it's not as though he's going to clubs that have never had a foreign player, couldn't help a foreign player adapt. That's what I'm saying.
But in terms of a permanent move to China, it's complicated because of the super tax.
Yeah. So the super tax it was brought in when Chinese clubs were trying to sign as many. But Carlos Tevez was the famous example. They gave him £600,000 a week, and it just didn't work out for him in Shanghai. So what happens is, if you buy a player in China, you spend a fee, you then have to double that fee and pay, and it goes towards the development of Chinese football. So effectively, whatever the transfer fee is going to be here, the club will have to pay twice. Real Madrid need a transfer fee because they want to keep in line with financial fair play and balance the books as well, not just get the wages off the bill as well. That is going to be a sticking point. And also, the Chinese transfer window closes in just 8 days' time. So that's why it might happen in a day or it may happen in a week, is what Jonathan Barnett was saying. It has to happen in a week.
There's got to be a negotiation somewhere, whether the player or the club, there has to be a renegotiation somewhere, because a talent like Gareth Bale, and I'll say it to you because I said it to you in the morning, so I'm going to keep the same energy, yeah? A talent like Gareth Bale should not be playing in a league that's still developing. I mean, you made some great points this morning when you said about Beckham and what he did for the MLS and the growth of that, but we're talking about Gareth Bale in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to be playing against Europe's elite talent, because he is still an elite talent.
But we did speak about that earlier, because I think we got a tweet from someone who said, you know, Beckham, he went to the MLS, helped raise the profile. Could Bale not do something similar? And then you have to remember, Beckham then made moves after that. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this would be, if it did happen, Bale's final move in football.
Do you know what? I think Gareth Bale will end up staying at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And I think after 10 games, if Real Madrid are not clear at the top of La Liga, guess what will happen? Zinedine Zidane will turn around to Gareth Bale and say, Gareth, we need you.
Will he? Well, surely,
I think so.
Surely
I think it's too good. If Real Madrid are not fighting right at the top of La Liga at the start of the season, he is not going to not turn to Gareth Bale and say, we need you.
He's going to play every kid he can ahead of Gareth Bale.
No. A lot of those youngsters, those young Brazilian signings that they've made, are still going to be learning and adapting to La Liga. So you have an experienced player.
For Gareth Bale at Real Madrid.
And I understand that. I understand that, because there is the element of egos involved. But at the same time, I don't think there's any situation in football that cannot be resolved. And if your team is not performing and you're a manager that's under pressure, you have a talent like Gareth Bale on the bench, regardless of the summer situation. Some players and some managers have got over those situations and said, you know what, let's put those bygones aside and let's focus on getting results on the pitch.
He also has 3 years left on his contract.
Yeah.
How many managers last 3 years at Real Madrid?
Yeah, so that is very true. And I mean, that's what his agent
Heating
said.
up.
You know, Gareth Bale could still be a Real player in 3 years when his contract ends. And that is the fact. We actually don't know how this one is going to play out. It really is going to be so interesting. We're going to be talking about it loads. Get in touch. Let us know what you think. Use that hashtag transfer talk. We're going to move on now to the latest on Manchester United target Bruno Fernandes, who has expressed his desire to play in England. Sky Sports News understands United are keen on bringing the Sporting Lisbon midfielder to the club this summer. And we do have some quotes from Fernandes himself. This was him speaking to reporters ahead of travelling with the rest of the Sporting squad to New York. He said, I don't care about the market. I've talked about this many times. The only thing I can do now is that I need to catch the plane so I don't miss it. Will this be the last match for Sporting? I don't know. It's the coach who decides. I'd like to play in England, but I don't care about it right now. If it could be this season, it could be when the club decides. I am not in charge. Fernandes, he did sign a new 5-year contract with Sporting just last summer. That deal does include a £31 million release clause. We will talk about that a bit more shortly, because there is a little bit more to it. But Emma, it's worth just getting to what the Sporting president has had to say about his player.
Yeah, so President Federico Varandas has basically warned Manchester United that they will have to pay more than £56 million to sign him this summer. So he said, I don't know if there are many or if there are few interested clubs, but what I do know, a lot has been spoken of values, 55 million euros, 62 million euros, which is where that £56 million comes from. For that, he doesn't leave, for sure. But if Bruno Fernandes does leave, players with quality will come in, but that's only if he leaves.
Yeah, and Anton, I touched on it there. We touched on it in Good Morning Transfers, but it is worth just going over it again, because there is a slight complication because of his release clause.
Yeah, you mentioned it's £31 million. That's usually pay it up front, player goes. Well, not necessarily in this case. There's a sub-clause in that which states if Sporting reject the bid, they then can compensate the player to the tune of £4.5 million, and then the release clause is null and void. They don't have to. Basically, the president, as you were just saying, can set whatever figure he wants, and it's basically there's no release fee. It's only going to cost them €5 million, which they're going to get back anyway in a transfer fee. So it's effectively name your price. If you want him, pay it.
Yeah, and he is a player that has attracted lots of interest from other clubs, not just Manchester United, and it's quite clear to see why. He's a pretty decent player.
Yeah, he's had one heck of a season at Sporting last year. Look, 20 goals in the league, and look at that, 32 goals in all competitions last season. But it's not just that as well. It's the assists, 13 assists in the league as well. He's the set piece taker. He can score a mean free kick. His crossing is fantastic. And not only does he bring the sort of a great record in Portugal, he's had a few years in Italy as well, which are crucial. Playing at Udinese, playing in Sampdoria, playing in Serie A. But again, so it's not as though the leap to a bigger European league won't necessarily be as big of an issue as it will be with some other players coming from a league like Portugal.
Yeah, and loads of Manchester United fans
gonna say, I was
getting in
looking
touch
through
on
the Twitter.
Yeah, it is just like, Bruno Fernandes, tell us more.
They are
When's this
desperate for
happening?
him, aren't they? They
absolutely
are absolutely desperate.
And it could just be some really positive news for Manchester United fans and for Manchester United as a whole, because he would be a really exciting prospect.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to remember 32 goals in 50-plus games like we saw there, but that is from midfield.
Yeah.
Like, if he came to the Premier League, he would be in every fantasy football team, without doubt, because he averages a goal or an assist every game.
I think the aspect of it we need to also take into consideration is Sporting love doing business with the Premier League. They do. Historically, we've seen it, and there's been so many players that have made that transition. So I know the director's standing firm now, but look at the list of actual players that have actually made that transition from Sporting Lisbon alone to just the Premier League. And I know there's going to be some names that stand out there, like Cristiano Ronaldo and Nani to Manchester United, but you still think about Cedric, Adrian Silva, even Rio Patricio. So they love doing business with the Premier League. They've loved continuously unfolding these players. I mean, some of the names that's not even on there that I thought about is Eric Dyer as well. Now, that immediately comes to mind. So I know Man United fans are getting excited, but there's a little bit of an element of historical optimism as well behind it.
Can I just say there's one... you were really excited, and I know, sorry, but there was one thing I think it was worth remembering as well, is the fact that if United get Fernandes in, they've got a creative midfielder that plays in the centre of midfield. Who else has been linked with a move away that's a creative midfielder in the centre of midfield? If they decided that the Paul Pogba situation was untenable, they have someone there. I don't think they want to sell Pogba, but I don't personally think he will leave, but there is always that
What
option
about the
if they bring in
aspects of
Fernandes.
them two together?
Oh, yeah.
Them two together, the goals and the assists that would actually come from your field with those two together.
I agree.
I mean, Man United could actually start thinking about long term. We have a 24 and a 26-year-old who are growing up together, who are going to develop together and be able to actually both do something to complement each other's games.
Yeah.